right, welcome back to another episode of Global Card Collectors. And as you can see, I have two guests today, but they're actually podcast slash YouTube channel co-hosts of a channel called WMSA Podcast, which stands for Where's My Sports At, which I quite like as a title. Boys, do you want to just maybe introduce yourselves and explain your connection to cards maybe, but also just why you guys started the YouTube channel slash podcast?
I'll let Jimmy kick off.
Yeah, I'll kick off. So we started off with the Where's My Sports At, and then me and Phil realised there that we could probably talk more about basketball, like with no prep, no nothing, and talk for it as long as we can. And initially we started off doing with a podcast called Basketball Edition, which was over 4 quarters, and we were timing ourselves over 4 8-minute quarters, and that became quite tough to do. And then we started moving into basketball cards, and then both, myself, it was the old Step Brothers moment where you look at Phil and you're like, and then we get talking more, and then we realise, do we just become best friends and we start going practicing karate and building bunk beds? And chopping up pumpkins with ninja swords. So what we end up going with there is we sort of moved with a segment with cards called Card Chat, and we've moved it now to being Basketball Edition Card Chat, mainly just because we like talking hoops and we like talking cards, but it's not just basketball cards, it's all cards. So we just get into it, chat, and with our guests as well. We have a chat with them too, and we've got them coming on. Got one coming on next week. And we just go through it and release each week. So good fun.
Perfect. Phil?
Yeah, so I'm pretty passionate about sports, specifically NBA and NFL, American football. And back when I was a wee boy, I was hard into Pokemon, and so sort of managed to have reignited that a wee bit as well. I kept all of my Pokemon cards, and relatively good nick for a 10-year-old. I managed to pull a Charizard, shiny Charizard, which I've managed to keep a hold of in relative good condition as well. I've got it in a one-touch these days to try and preserve it even more. But yeah, Jimmy and I, we love chatting all things sport, and we thought, why not actually sort of bring together our passion of watching the sports with the hobby that is collecting the cards. It's something cool. Like I was watching football today, and I'm like, man, it'd be real cool to have like the NFL card of this particular player or an auto. It's one of those things that I think it's quite fun. I guess not everyone's a collector, but it's definitely something that you can have in you.
Yeah, very cool. Yeah, funny that you mentioned Pokemon, and remember you said earlier on that Jimmy was looking away in your last episode. I was looking away because I was looking for Pokemon cards. So my daughter and I are opening Pokemon cards together. We literally open up like a packet of them a day.
So, oh wow!
So this is the new set called Surging Sparks.
Surging Sparks. Yeah, I'm looking forward to Evolutions coming out.
Yes, that's going to be a monster. So those Surging Sparks boxes, I bought the box. I ordered it online, and I paid $200 New Zealand for it. It's now selling for about $320 from 2 weeks ago. It's ridiculous because everyone's looking for that Pikachu card.
Yeah, that
Pikachu card's worth a boatload of money. But these are from 151. So I got these all in one of those. There's a Mewtwo. There's a Ninetales there. Nice. Sorry, there's a bit of glare there, and then there's a Dragonite. But I got them all in one box, and like all 3 of them paid for the box 2-3 times over. So it's been a lot of fun. Yeah, we've had a good time with the Pokemon too, and it's just a really cool way for me to bond with my daughter. I can't really stand the Barbie stuff or the role playing, so I've got her into card collecting now, and she loves it, and it's a lot of fun. So I guess not everyone can be a collector, but when you have collector and sports together, it seems to work out quite well,
Yeah, and you can just go into a lot more depth and get a lot more information and intel in terms of on what you want to collect. So, like with myself, I've like gone away, come back into cards, and come back with a bit of a vengeance now. But I've always been collecting. So I've got about 10,000 odd cards now that I've been collecting with basketball since I was about 8. And I sort of thought I'll have a little bit of time off, but then like you said with your daughter, my son, my oldest boy, we started collecting hoops, or NBA hoops, when Luka Doncic came on board. And got a whole cards there, so I'd let him rip the packets, and the little guy would always get like the Luka Doncic rookie or Trae Young rookie that I wanted.
Wow. I'll have to show you a Luka Doncic card that I have. It's the best Doncic card that I have, and I haven't seen many people with it. It's actually printed in Turkey.
Oh,
and it's from when he was like 15 or 16 years old. So it's a pre-rookie card when he was playing for Real Madrid. And that one's worth a couple of grand, but I paid, I think, about $2 New Zealand for it because I found it in Turkey, and I was like, I might as well get it. Who cares? And then I started doing research on it. I go, oh my god, this is the best Luka Doncic card in my collection. So I've always been a Luka Doncic fan. When I used to live in Europe, we went and watched him one time because my buddy was like, "This guy's he's going to be real good. You got to watch him. You got to see what he's like as a player." And so we ended up getting tickets to Real Madrid versus a local Turkish team called Fenerbahce. And the stadium was packed, but just to watch him on court, and he just manipulates the game so well, and he's been doing that ever since he was a kid. Yeah. So yeah, good choice on Luka there.
Yeah, makes it look so easy, doesn't he?
Yeah, I just wish that he doesn't. He looks like he's playing injured this year. I've watched quite a lot of Dallas games.
He's overweight.
Yeah, he looks real like unhappy to move his body. It's like his body needs to just like shut down for another couple of months. I think that's why he's been injured these past couple of weeks as well. It's like, come on, dude, you got to get back into it.
Yeah, he'll be playing Overwatch at the moment. That's his seems to be his thing.
That's right. So from your show, you guys, there's one of you is a Scoot Henderson fan, and the other one is a Phil. What fan? Who are you a fan of again?
I'm Hornets in terms of basketball, so LaMelo Ball and Brandon Miller.
That's right. Yeah, and LaMelo's having a great year this year.
He is. He's putting up gaudy numbers at the moment. He's unfortunately hurt himself. He's got a calf strain, so I'm hoping it doesn't become anything more serious because over the past 4 or 5 games he's averaging about 40 points. So He's on an absolute tear, which is awesome because he's always had that potential, but he's just had some niggling ankle injuries and stuff like that have held him back.
And he's been a bit of a hobby darling too. I remember when his rookie cards were coming out, like he was much more popular than Ant-Man. Everybody wanted a LaMelo card because of the style that he played. And people just didn't really trust that Ant-Man was going to become something. No. So LaMelo was selling for big money, and I wonder what his card market is doing right now. It must be jumping up a little bit.
Well, it's funny actually because there's a guy I watch on YouTube called Lootbox and Lootbox channel, and he's got LaMelo collection, and he was going through it, and he's like, let's see how much my Melo cards were and how much they are now, and they've dropped significantly. This was pre LaMelo playing the way that he is now. But, I mean, I've been looking on YouTube for Melo autos, and you're looking at a couple hundred USD starting. So, so that's that, to get, and he only did autos in his rookie year. So there's no other autos floating around from what I can tell.
And they were really hard. They were hard autos to get. I remember, you'd be waiting for years for a redemption on those.
Oh, okay.
And then when they finally came out, people were like, is that his auto? And I think they were confusing it with Bridges. I think there was some confusion, and a few of them, they put the wrong sticker on or something like that. It was pretty crazy.
He does that.
How about you with Jimmy with Scoot Henderson? I guess his price point must have started out pretty high, and now it's probably quite affordable, I assume.
Yeah. So with Scoot, I always, with my collecting, I always look for that player like Aladdin, the diamond in the rough.
All right.
So he's the player there that I thought might have a little bit something more to him, and he wasn't going to be as expensive when buying into breaks and collecting. So that's the sort of player I look for. So usually I'm looking outside the top lot, but just something about him being the youngest player ever in G League, made me think there that he's going to be something good. Hopefully he's about 5 years away. Always reminds me.
I don't know. I mean, he's got a lot more flashes of him playing well this year. And I like the way that the Blazers are playing, actually. And I haven't watched a lot of their games, but some of the games that they do play, when they have like Rob Williams playing center and that kind of stuff, and they're quick. And I remember when they were playing, was it Minnesota? And they got like the record amount of threes in a game, or the highest percentage. They hit every single 3-point shot they took, it felt like. That was fun.
In the game before, they missed the highest ever percentage. That's how they roll.
That'll be right.
What'll be happening with them is it's going to be a gradual approach, and I hope the Blazers don't get rid of Chauncey Billups, because I think he's the type of coach that's going to need a few years to develop and get the team that he wants in with him to play that style, because they're sort of starting to play that old school Detroit style. And nice. I think Chauncey Billups, if he stays as coach, I think that's going to be the sort of key metric for that team to go with moving forward. Get tough guys. NBA is going to get harder, and that's the sort of team I want to see with them. Yeah.
And I was talking to Phil a little bit before we started recording, but I feel like that aggressive, attacking, defensive kind of a team is going to be one that's going to be successful down the line too. And I think you're right about Chauncey. I mean, you got to give a guy like that a little bit of time. Think about Jason Kidd. I felt like Milwaukee let him go a little bit too early. And you look at what he's doing now as a coach. He's smart, man. Like he's a good coach. You can tell.
Yeah, and then they brought back Darvin Ham and Doc Rivers. That's probably the worst coaching combination I could think of.
That's right.
Could you imagine the team talks? Oh, guys, I'm just going to go over a game plan I had 15 years ago. You guys all good with it? Yeah, sweet. Let's play.
Yeah, because Doc doesn't change, does he? He's a bit of a dinosaur. Like, I mean, I feel like that championship that he won with Boston has just kind of made him look a bit better than what he actually is.
It's an aberration. I love the memes that it's like the 2008 Celtics is the greatest team of all time because they managed to win a title with Doc as their head coach.
Yeah.
That's a good goal.
Yeah, a bit harsh, but pretty fair, really. When you think about all those 3-1s that he's given away,
But he does things. Yeah, so he does things like not letting the rookies get a real chance to shine, and sticks with his core to like 6 or 7 guys. And then I've got good young guys like Andre Jackson Jr. that's there. Is it Marjon Beauchamp? He's the other guy, eh?
I think they let him go.
Yeah, they did let him go.
They've got AJ Green. There's this white fellow. He's a sharpshooter. He could probably do with some more minutes.
But they look old. They do look old. Yeah. Like in this modern NBA, you're not going to be able to survive with those guys. And in a 7-game series in the playoffs, as good as Giannis is, I mean, you look at their wing defense, and a team like the Celtics is just going to wipe the floor with them, Yeah, it's going to be tough for them. Yeah, I agree. Hey, let's get back to a little bit of card chat. So, can you tell us a little bit about what you guys do as collectors? Because I've heard you guys on your shows, and you buy into breaks and you buy singles. Is there anything else that you guys end up kind of doing? Could you kind of walk us through the process of what you're like as a collector and how you're thinking, and maybe what your whole goal is, I guess, as a collectors?
You start, Phil.
Okay. It's a tricky one in New Zealand with buying boxes, because from a retail standpoint, we've got EB Games, we've got Farmers, we've got Wadi Fuddy, and Warehouse. Not too, maybe Whipcools, where you can buy single packets of NBA hoops, the odd Prism or the odd Don Russ or Optic. So there aren't that many opportunities to buy proper boxes. Otherwise, if you want to buy anything decent, which I like Obsidian, I like Origins, I like Court Kings, buying those boxes is expensive, or you bring them in from Australia. Ultimately, it would be nice to be able to go down that route, but it can get pretty costly, and access to it is a lot more difficult. So that's where the breaking comes in.
Gotcha.
You can target a team or a player. You obviously have to be aware that sometimes you can walk away with nothing. So that's I think that's the thing that you really have to, especially like for the first time. There's beginner's luck. 100% beginner's luck is a thing. Like I remember one of the first boxes I got of Gold Standard NFL I got a 2 of 5 Kirk Cousins auto, and I'm a Vikings fan, so I was just like, this is awesome. I didn't even know, like, it didn't even click, like, it didn't even like realize to me at the time like how like rare and potentially sort of semi-expensive that was. But of course, you can spend that same amount of money and get absolutely nothing, and then you kind of left there saying, like, oh wow, okay. Could have gone to KFC and bought a quarter pack or something. Instead, I've got nothing. So it's definitely something to factor in. I decided early on that I wouldn't buy into minis anymore. I'm not sure if you're familiar with minis.
Yeah, I know about minis, but please explain it to some of the listeners who might know what minis are.
Yeah, so instead of sometimes the Spurs, for example, are stupid expensive because of Wendy. And so it can be at the moment Noir is getting unboxed, and that's to buy a Spurs spot. It's about $600, and you could get nothing. There's 10 cards I think in a box of Noir, and you could get nothing. So a lot of people, sometimes people buy into it, other times people don't. So in order to actually get the box, so that the breakers can actually open it, instead of selling the Spurs for $600, they'll break the $600 up into 10 lots of 60. So I could pay $60 for a spot, and then that 10 spot gets random, and then one out of those 10 people end up winning the Wendy. Hopefully I've done my maths right.
So, that's right.
So instead of losing $600, you may only lose 60. So there's that risk reward. So there are other ways that breakers do it, so that maybe a couple of the other people that bought in might end up with a consolation prize, maybe a little fat pack or something like that. But yeah, so that's an option. So I actually just sort of decided, actually, especially buying into a box with only 5 to 10 cards or whatever, it's already low, like high risk, low reward. So the chance of getting the team through the filler is even lower. So
for sure.
Not even going to go to that part. Because you can get pretty lost. You can go into a pretty deep dark place with breaks. Say, Jimmy, there can be so many that come up with breakers around, and then you get a good card, and it's like winning the on my younger days, going out for Friday night beers and playing the odd, having a jam on the pokies. You win your first jackpot and you're like, oh my goodness, this $800 or $1,000, this is awesome. And then you just keep going back when you got to scratch the itch. So that's a little bit like that with with breaks. So
really, really great way to explain it. Absolutely. And I totally agree with you on the beginner's luck element of it. And speaking of minis versus getting in the main, I remember a buddy of mine was running a Raz and he couldn't quite get all of the spots filled, so he ran a mini. And I bought a couple of spots in the main, but I was like, look, let's fill up your mini and let's get this going. So I bought a couple of mini spots, Ended up getting a spot in the main with the mini. So I won the mini. And then when we did the Raz, I won the Raz too with the mini spot. Of course you do, because it's beginner's
luck. It's always the mini spot though, right? That's the other part.
Yeah, that is how it feels. And so when I did that, I ended up getting a 1-of-1 Damian Lillard from I think it's one of those nebulas. So that was a lot of fun. But after that, as you said, you end up going to dark places pretty quickly. You're like, I just spent all that money for nothing? For nothing?
Yeah. That's it.
Yeah.
So what? Yeah. Go, Jimmy.
Yeah. So I usually get on hot streaks, I feel. But it's like I'll get the auto in most of the draws just because I'll buy a random team. Like if I don't get the Blazers, I'll go the Pacers, and then I've got 5 other teams that I'll get to try and make my collection look cool. And one of the teams, the Pacers, I've hit now 6 Isaiah Wong autos. Number 55 of last year's draft has been waived from 2 teams already. And I've got 5 autos of them. And I sent one to Phil as a joke a while ago. So it was worth it. I felt Tobias Harris.
So Isaiah Wong, the PC you didn't know that you wanted.
Exactly.
Good fun. So how often do you guys buy into breaks? I mean, I initially when I went in there, when I got my beginner's luck, I went a bit too far into it, and so I pulled right back, but I haven't really found a good medium for it all. Obviously, I'm leaving the country in maybe 2 weeks. 2 weeks time, I'm going to be out in New Zealand. So I'm like, to scratch my itch a bit, and so I've been going back into breaks a little bit, but it's just really hard for me to find that balance. And I think as much fun as it is and as much of a gamble as it is with breaks, do you guys have a strategy or a philosophy or this is how far I'm going to go this week or this month? How do you guys manage that?
Well, my wife probably won't watch this anyway.
My wife's not watching any of my episodes, don't worry.
But I thought I'd just look at the camera, give a slight nod, break the fourth wall. So I usually try and play the odds when I'm looking at it. I'll look at has my team hit in the last 2-3 breaks what's been going on, and you sort of get a feel. So it is a bit like gambling, I have to say, but I bet responsibly, and that's the best way to do it, right? So
yeah,
play the feeling, and go for it when you go, I think this time my team's going to hit, I'm pretty sure, and that's what I'll usually go with. So it's not investing hugely, it's investing wisely. So if it's a team worth $20, then that to me is not really too much of a bother. If like today, for example, my team was $109, I said to Phil, that's a lot of breaks that I could miss out on with that $109. So I didn't go on that. So that's the sort of way that I look at it.
Nice.
Always you're always on a budget regardless of what your income is, right? So that's how I look at it. I think risk and reward, or what am I going to get the most Scoot Hendersons from? That's the other thing I look at. So, for example,
so do you look at the set lists? Do you go down the set list to see which autos are around and that kind of thing? Because every now and then I do with certain sets. And what I've noticed from the difference between something like Hoops, which might have maybe 2 really good autos, is you go to the top end ones, and that's when the really good ones start popping out. But those you have to pay to get into. They're expensive.
Yeah, so I play the odds to get as much base as I can of a certain player during the season, if that's the player I'm collecting, and then keep them for a rainy day.
Good one, Phil. What about your philosophy on buying into breaks?
My strategy, early days, there wasn't one. It was just I want to be involved. So you kind of just buy into a bunch, as you do. You don't really know what you're doing, and it's fun. But the more you got along, and the more you saw how ineffective that approach was, you do develop a strategy. And so I ended up basically, these are the sets that I like, and these are the ones that I don't like. So no matter how cheap my team is or whatever's happening, I'm not going to buy into it because I actually don't like those cards. So like most of the Donruss sets, I didn't buy a single Donruss Elite. Donruss Elite, there's something about that set just gives me the disgusting cards. And so I can't stand them. So there's just a bunch of sets that I just won't buy into now. Early days, obviously, sort of I had to learn from that mistake. And so if Origins comes up, I pretty much try and jump on them. Same thing with Obsidian. And of course, some of those boxes, there's less cards, so there has to be that element of being okay with not getting a card. The Hornets were really expensive this year because of Brandon Miller, so I didn't get to the chance to buy into as many Hornets breaks because of that exact reason. So that's when I have sort of alternate teams. So I ended up buying into a few Pelicans breaks and getting some Jordan Hawkins rookies.
Cool.
And some Brandon Ingram. I quite like Brandon Ingram, and even though and Zion, even though they're not their rookie cards, but so it's all about with breaks. It's all about finding that set that you really like, and picking and choosing, and then going back to what I should have said earlier. I started buying lots of singles via eBay because I also decided, if you could spend $50 on a spot that has 10 cards and you don't even get the card, or if you do, the card might be worth $10. It's like, well, why don't you just jump on eBay and buy? It's like 3 or 4 cards out of that same set for less than $50. So sort of started taking that approach as well, and using an outfit called Ship My Cards.
Nice.
I don't know if you've heard of them.
Yeah.
They make shipping over to New Zealand slightly more palatable. There's still a fee involved, but it's enabled me to get cards that I just normally wouldn't even have the chance of getting through breaks or through buying in boxes or through anyone in New Zealand.
Do you guys have a ComC account as well?
Yes, I do. I haven't used them.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I use ComC almost exclusively rather than eBay. I just find clicking a button and not having to worry about certain things like shipping or having to do background research on the seller because you just press a button and it's in your inventory. It's not
Okay,
bad.
yeah.
So that's why I like it, because you just all you do is just once you're in, you search the card that you're after, and it'll come with all sorts of different copies. They've scanned them all, so you can look at all of their condition. The hardest thing, obviously, to tell will be the surface, but you can look at corners and edges pretty well. Centering too, but the surface thing is the hardest one. And what you can do on there too is you can, as soon as you buy the card, if you want to send it straight to PSA, they'll do that too. So they have a direct to PSA service, $25, I think, something like that, and you send the card off to PSA and it gets graded. So what I did with these Journal Omu cards is these ones are not really PSA worthy ones. So I sent 12 PSA worthy ones. I think they could get possibly. I'm really hoping for a 10, obviously, but I think they're going to grade quite high. So I sent 12 of them off to ComC, and I'm going to send them to PSA via ComC. And I do that so that when I move back to Turkey, I can just leave it in my account, and when I need to, I can post it to an American address, pick it up, and take it with me. It just feels a bit safer, So ComC is definitely worth looking into. I use it much more than eBay or anything else.
How does shipping work?
Well, apparently, according to one of the Facebook groups here in New Zealand, they'll ship directly to New Zealand too. So it'll cost you a little bit of money, but I don't think it's much more than ship my cards, and it might even be better. I'll have to ask, because I've never shipped anything from ComC to New Zealand yet. I've only sent cards there. But I have a couple of buddies in Facebook groups who use them almost exclusively. They'll find cards, they'll buy them on there, they put them into the inventory, and then when they can, they'll send them back to New Zealand in like big boxes. They'll come in a big, square box with 20, 30 cards or 100 cards or however many you want. But the click of the button thing about grading is perfect. Yeah. And they do both PSA and CGC. Both companies work through them as well.
All right.
Yeah.
Good to know.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, good fun. I wanted to ask you, and I kind of gave this question to Phil before we started recording, but I think, Jim, you can figure it out too. I've actually been moving a little bit away from modern cards, and I moved away from it for a couple of reasons. I think one, buying modern is just so expensive. That was the first reason why I moved it. And number two, and I think it's the bigger reason, is because I feel like the products are just being more and more watered down. We were talking about Prism parallels, for example. There are, I think, 68 different color parallels for Prism cards now. I looked at Victor Wembanyama's rookie cards. Do you know how many rookie cards he has? He has almost 2,000, I think 2,200 rookie cards. Different ones, obviously, with the different parallels. And it's just like, when you go back to the 80s, you'll find a guy, how many rookie cards did he have? 2. And there's a difference there. And it feels like that, I guess, doctored version of rarity just seemed to put me off a bit. I just wonder what your thoughts are on continuing to collect modern. Is that how does that impact your way of thinking and that sort of thing? Because I've definitely moved more towards the rugby and the cricket because I just know that there's less being printed. And I think the same with even going back to 80s or 70s cards, finding some really nice classic cards where a guy has one really iconic rookie card, like a Pete Maravich Tallboy would be just perfect for me, I think.
Yeah, like with that, I think it's with Prism. There are some merits with some Prisms. The worst thing is though it's the same stock image for every card. So
that's right.
Like it's the same with Hoops that does the same thing. So like with my Scoot Henderson collection, for example, I've got about 40 cards of the same card. And when you look at it 40 times, where he's holding the ball going, and then
with the sleeves, with the one with the red sleeves,
with the red sleeves, but then that same image from Media Day, and we'll call them Media Day cards, because that's effectively what they are. They've got the same image on Origins. They've then got the same image on a couple of like maybe one or two of the Obsidian cards. They got the same image on NBA Hoops. They got the same image on Mosaic. Like, so all of those different card brands within Panini all have, like, if you laid them side by side, the only thing that's different is the background.
Yeah.
So that's something for me in terms of like saturation of the same image. If they're different images, perfect. That's all good. But they're not.
Then you can choose which image you prefer to buy as a card, right?
Yeah. I'll see if I can find an example. Even like, oh, here we go. So like all of these, for example, this is Jarashe Walker, right? Basically, all of those cards, see the image on the back as well, same as the image on the front. They're all basically the same image.
Wow.
Yeah, just in different. Either it's closer or further back.
Yeah, I think that's I think it's an important topic to pick up about the I think it's a little bit oversaturated too, because when you think about how many cards they're printing of these guys, I don't know if you've seen the I think it's the third reason why I'm a little bit off on Modern is because I don't know if you've seen the prop reports on from these grading companies as well, and Victor Wembanyama has already hit the top 10 of most graded cards of all time. He's barely been playing for just over a season. It's just like, that's not going to be a good long-term investment. But I guess when you pick these more fringe kind of players, like Jimmy does, I think it makes more sense because you're like, well, no one's going to have those kinds of guys' cards. And I did that with Şengün because I was, watching him in Turkey. I kind of figured that he was going to be a good player because it was like, how can you get the league MVP in Turkey, which is one of the strongest leagues in Europe, with two of the strongest teams in the Euro League? Like they were literally winning the Euro League title, these teams, and Şengün's getting the MVP there, and he goes down to, I think he dropped to like 12 or 18. He was really late in the draft, and so no one picked up his card. So I was picking up Şengün autos for $20-$25 on ComC. It was great. Rookie autos, get them all. Just buy them as soon as they got up. I bought a rookie one of his, I think for $110. So sometimes when you have these fringe guys and you hit, you're going to do really well.
Yeah, and you get a feeling about them. You just get a feeling.
Yeah. I don't think you're too far off on Scoot. He could be really great or not, and I think it's worth rolling the dice on him.
Yeah, even if all my cards double in value, or even if they go up by, well, when I say double in value, if they go from being worth $5 to worth 10, I've already won, and that's how I'm looking at it with him. Yeah.
Is it one as in I knew I was right about this, or I've won monetarily?
Pretty much, I was right about Luka Doncic. So I collected a whole lot of his rookie cards, and I've got a fair bit of his, and some of them have got a bit of value in the safe. And like that's just what you do, right? You get a feeling and you go for it. And American scouts aren't always right. Yeah. Yeah.
I think that might just keep me into Modern. It'll be like, rather than just buying boxes of the stuff, I either buy singles of guys I think are gonna do well. Like Amen Thompson, I've got him on my fantasy team, and he's just this beast. The last 3 games, I think he's got 3 blocks and 3 steals, and he does everything else as well. He's so good. Like he's really, really like quite underrated. And I was like, when he came into the league, I was like, oh, he's pretty good. He's not bad. But you watch him defensively, and like Dyson Daniels, they're a menace. Like the top scoring guards on these guys cannot score on them. And in fact, they're kind of nervous with the ball around them because they don't just kind of stick back and try and make you take a bad shot. They're attacking the ball, and it's like, holy moly, it's really cool to watch. I think that's why I like those 2 guys in particular. They've really, really caught my eye this year.
Yeah, and another thing in terms of like investing in cards and what I always say, and Phil will probably back me up on this, AG, there's something about watching the games and getting your feeling from watching those players and watching them live rather than buying into all the social media hype. Like if you're a baller, which like we are, we've been playing since we were wee fellas, now we're big guys. you know the game, so you can trust your own instincts. And I don't read a lot of social media in terms of like what's coming through. I mainly sort of glance at it because I rather trust my own eyes. Yeah.
That's a great way to think. So you're trusting your eyes on Scoot. Anybody else that you watch and think this guy's a good baller? He's going to be all right.
I think the two young guys at the Pacers, Ben Shepherd and Jarashe Walker, they're going to be two guys, or Jarish Walker, Jarashe, I always say, because it looks cool. But yeah, like there's always, when you look from anywhere from around about the 5th pick to even all the way down to the 40th pick, you can see guys. You just watch how they play, and then you have a look at how they're going to fit in with that team. And that's the way to look at it. Yeah.
There's a I don't know if you guys listen to Bill Simmons, but he always says he's on some player's island. Is there a player who you're on his island still? You're like, he's still going to be good. Like, I was always a big fan of Rob Williams, so seeing him playing fairly well lately has been like, yeah, cool, because I'm a Celtics fan, and I was. What's this?
He hit his first 3 the other day.
Oh, did he?
Yeah,
Nice.
yeah, that was cool. Someone I'm high on, and that's because I watch their games, and I'm a Hornets fan. I still think that Mark Williams is going to come back from his injuries, and he's going to be a beast.
He was really good for a while there. You're right.
Yeah, and he's only really played a handful of games in the first couple of seasons he's been there. So I think he's at the moment he hasn't played. We're about coming up 365 days, I think, at the beginning of December, and he's just been reassigned to the G League, or assigned to the G League. So he's getting back into shape. It's been a foot strain rather than a back. Whenever you hear about big men and back injuries, that's major red flags. But I think he's going to be something special, and he's going to elevate the Hornets. And there's lots of value in his cards at the moment. So that's why I say that, because a lot of people are sleeping on him. Same thing with Melo. Everyone was on the bandwagon. His cards were worth stupid amounts, and then they've kind of tanked. And ever since this season, getting LaMelo cards on eBay at the moment you're paying a lot more than what you were just a couple of months ago. Yeah, so I'm really high on him. I still have belief in Nick Smith Jr. He was a rookie last year as well. Hasn't been getting as much court time because the Hornets have got a dearth of backcourt guys. But Trey Mann, the Hornets got an absolute steal when they traded away Gordon Hayward to the Thunder. My mate's a Thunder fan, and he's like, oh, the Thunder page people always get upset with Presti about how they traded away Trey Mann. And it's like, well, what was he supposed to do? Like, look at the Thunder squad. Look how stacked they are now. Like, there aren't enough minutes in the game. So someone had to go. Yeah, and so Trey Mann has just been... I love how he's like basically Allen Iverson reincarnate. He's wearing all the baggy clothes this year with his cornrows and his headband, right. and the way that he's playing. So he's fun. There's lots of value to be had in tracking his rookie cards down as well as a Thunder.
Do you guys play fantasy as well? NBA fantasy?
No,
because it definitely. Fair enough. Yeah. What I will say about it is that it does make you watch guys a little bit more closely. So I wouldn't have watched the Atlanta Hawks if it weren't for the fact that one guy that I was going up against and it was in a certain week had Dyson Daniels.
Right.
I was like, why is this guy scoring so many fantasy points against me? And so I was like, I got to see what these guys look like. And I was like, wow, I really want that guy on my team. So I'm going to be scouting him for next year. But he looks like he could be a really, really good player in the future. He's got a fairly decent offensive game, but the defensive game, he should be one of the front runners for Defensive Player of the Year, and he should make at least an all defensive team this year. He's so good.
I think he got a chip on his shoulder when he got traded.
That's right, and I think there was a period there where he was, I think it was 5 games in a row. He had 6 steals per game. What is this? Ridiculous.
Yeah, he's on pace to be NBA record.
Really?
Steals. Yeah.
Wow, that's cool. That's cool.
Yeah, and he's an Aussie, so I mean, he's not a Kiwi, but it's still cool that someone from down under is representing at a high level.
That's right. Yeah, it's a bit of a shame that Steve's career is almost done. You know, you can tell he doesn't get much court time anymore, but he's done so well for us. But I have a feeling that sooner or later, because basketball is becoming so popular here in New Zealand, maybe there'll be a chance for another one of our Kiwis to get into the NBA, and it only makes sense. The Breakers do so well in the Australian League. Surely one of our boys can make it. You know,
we've got 2 young guys in the NBA academy at the moment. That have just signed up for a couple of big schools in the States. So we've got Julius Halafanua. He's one there that's been in the NBA academy in Australia. He's one to keep an eye on. He will potentially be top 10 draft, maybe even top 5.
Really? Is this in the next draft coming up, huh?
It might be the one after next, because Cooper Flagg's
the next one.
Yeah, card value is going to skyrocket again next year. Whoever gets Cooper Flagg wins that lottery. Might be the 76ers now, because it looks like they're tanking a bit. But with the Kiwis, we've also got Oscar Goodman as well, who's just started the FIBA Junior World Champs. So we've got a few other young guys, a lot actually, that are around. There's Elijah Fonuatea. He's just signed up to a big school. He's a local Rotorua boy here, and his mum and dad, very proud. They're spending a lot going over to the States to see their boy, but he's another one there that's going to be popping through. I think he's about 6'7". And good shooter, good baller, and really driven, self-funded himself or partially funded himself to get to St. Mary's in America. So, we've got a lot of good young Kiwis, hundreds of them in America at the moment.
Wow. Yeah. Surely someone will be coming through soon, because I know that the Aussies they've had a really good run of so many players in the NBA. Always, it seems like there's at least 4 or 5 that you could name that's Australian in the NBA still, you know?
Well, it's a sign of a global society as well. Like all these, the information that we have access to these days, back in the 80s and 90s, in terms of being able to get that correct coaching or get that correct advice when you need it, is now available at the press of a button.
It's very true.
So, the NBA is only going to become more and more global, and sadly, unless what happens is America puts a cap on, like they've got in the English Premier League and the Indian Premier League for cricket, and they look at something like that where they have to cap international players come in, that could be the only way the NBA might be able to stop that growth, but I don't think they want to.
Yeah, I don't think they would want it, because they understand that there's probably a bigger audience abroad when you think of China and you think of Europe, and then you've got Australasia as well. Like, it makes sense to keep it international.
And Philippines are crazy for basketball cards. They love it. And any of your fans are from Philippines, hey, love it. Love their passion for the game. It's so cool to see.
And there are some crazy card collections there. I interviewed a guy maybe about 8 or 9 months ago now, and he had either a rookie card. No, he had an auto of every single Hall of Fame member except for Pete Maravich. So he's got a Jordan auto, LeBron auto. He's got every Hall of Famer except for Pete Maravich. And I was like, dude, what is this collection worth? He's showing me this LeBron auto, and it's on one of those acetate cards, and I've never seen it before. And it's on card, so LeBron has used a marker and given his signature on this acetate. How much is that worth? Oh, that was 10,000 US, and I paid $1,000 for it, or something like that. It's like, oh man. Yeah. So it's just about staying in the hobby for so long. You can, if you stay in long enough, and if your hunches are right, and if you're not silly, you can definitely end up with an awesome collection.
Yeah.
Coming in pre-COVID, I think is where a lot of the money was to be made. I think I didn't jump on the COVID wagon up, so I'm fairly new coming back into it. But yeah, it sounds like it was pretty wild back when all the lockdowns were happening and everyone was sort of bored at home with a bunch of extra money. So yeah, then it exploded.
Yeah, that was me. I was one of those ones.
Yeah,
COVID. That's when I learned the ins and outs of ComC. I was like, I can't buy any cards here in Turkey. What am I going to do? And so I started buying cards on ComC, and every now and then a card would pop up in Turkey that I'd buy as well. So that was how I started up again. I mean, I was always a collector, but as you know, in New Zealand, and as soon as that market kind of dried up in like 96, 97, you couldn't find basketball cards for love or money, you know? And so with that, I was just like, it's impossible to get. And then my mindset just stuck that way. Even though the world became much more international with eBay and that sort of thing, I was like, oh, there's no way I'm going to be able to get cards.
Yeah.
But now you do what you do to get them, you know?
Yeah, those vending machine packs were awesome. $2 coin out splits a pack.
That's right.
That's where I got my collection from.
You use coins. I use washers.
Christian, I was raised in a good Christian family, Jimmy, so there's a bit of honesty jumping over there, mate.
Hey, do you guys have any cards to show off to us? Do you want to show us some of the cards that you might have that you really like? Or?
Yeah. Got a bunch. I pulled out a couple. I jumped on Cards Plus several months ago and bought some. They had some 90s packs, and there was basically nothing in them. I'm not sure if it's gonna come up, but I got this as an Upper Deck card, and it's of Detlef Schrempf, and it's one of these ones.
As soon as you said it, I know exactly what card you're talking about.
Yeah, I was so stoked when I pulled that. I was like, this card is friggin' awesome.
It really is. Those are cool.
Real cool cards. And actually, another card I've been trying to track down the mate, and I haven't found it for the right price. But in terms of just some old school cards, Jimmy actually gifted me this card, but it's this one here of Glenn Rice.
Oh yeah.
You actually get Del Curry, and it slots into this gap.
Really?
So the Del Curry one says Charlotte, and this one says Hornets, and the cards.
Oh, that's really
together.
cool.
So the card comes down here.
Which company made that one?
So this is Stadium.
Top Stadium Club.
Yeah. So Top Stadium. Yeah. So it's Glenn Rice. So there's a bunch of different teams that did it. Because I remember when Jimmy gave it to me, and I'm like, such a weird die cut. And then I was looking online, and I'm like, oh no way! You can actually, it becomes like a mega card.
I've never seen that before.
I've been trying to get the Del Curry for a reasonable price to go with it.
And they're obviously both playing for the Hornets back then too.
That's right. Yeah, it's the Hornets cards.
Cool.
Yes, I think they did them for a number of different teams. Yeah.
Very cool. Jimmy, what do you got, buddy?
I'll stick with the old school one. So I'm a massive Tim Duncan fan. Tim Duncan's the reason why I got into basketball in the first place.
Oh, wow.
So I've got an old school Skybox Fleur medal of Timmy D. Just all in there. And I've also got a good old Panini Excalibur. It's sort of like a relatively new one of Timmy Duncan. I've just got a few of late as well. And a Topps Tim Duncan, I think it's the 50th anniversary of the NBA. So
that set's pretty. That's the KD rookie card set, right?
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, so those are some old school ones, but back to the old school theme. I've shown this on our podcast, but I'm a big Malice in the Palace fan. I just think it's one of the funniest moments in sport. Mainly just because it was so random and it happened. So got the old Meta World Peace. He's one of my favourite.
Wow.
With that. So it's a Court Kings, and then Stephen Jackson who jumped in to save him, and that's another one. And I'm on the hunt for Jermaine O'Neal to complete that set. So
awesome.
Hopefully I can get it, or Ben Wallace or Rasheed Wallace, but we'll see how we go.
Sure. Have you watched all of the documentaries on the Malice in the Palace as well?
Yeah, that's why I got back into it. Yeah.
Yeah, wow. So I actually I watched that game live. I was here in New Zealand many years ago, and we were watching the game, and I remember my family was just like kind of walking around, and as soon as it happened, because it was right at the tail end of the game was over, and then it just broke out, as you know, and I was like, oh my God, what's going on? Everyone in my family just ran in the room. What happened? Who won the game? I'm like, oh no, they're beating up fans. It's like, what? And one of the funniest thing that my dad noticed was you have the commentary team there, and they'll be going, you know, this is a sad day in the NBA. Oh, and there's another fight breaking out over here in the corner. It's like, oh, but it's so upsetting to defend. Like, it was incredible. It was such a weird moment in time. So I think anybody who was around and saw that game live remember exactly where they were, because I don't think we'll ever see that again. Like, going into the stands. I just remember Steven Jackson. He was just swinging.
Hold me back. Yeah.
The arms are just going like windmills. You're like, oh man, if someone connects with those, they're in trouble. Yeah, cool. That's not a bad idea. It's interesting that you say that you're a Tim Duncan fan. That Filipino guy that I was telling you about with that ridiculous Hall of Fame auto set, his Instagram handle is Tim Duncan Collector, and he has ridiculous Tim Duncan cards. Like, he's showing me 4 or 5 different one of ones, like, you know, the one of ones of like the N on the Tim Duncan uniform. He's got that full patch card. It's like, what is this? Yeah, so you might want to check that one out with him too. He's got crazy cards.
Yeah, it'll be cool.
Yeah, he's a awesome player. Like,
yeah. I didn't even get to talk to you guys about cricket and rugby cards, but I think we can maybe leave that for another time. But I reckon, unless there's anything else you guys want to share, I think we can leave it there. I know it's late in the evening where you guys are. So,
I'll show off 2 more cards.
Please do.
Just because Jimmy, a couple more, because Jimmy just reminded me of the reason he got into basketball. The reason I got into basketball as a kid was Shaq. Shaq was, I get this massive, big 7-foot guy that obviously had the Orlando Magic and Charlotte Hornets and Chicago Bulls were basically like the 3 teams that you could buy clothes from at Farmers as a young kid. But there was something about that Shaq that really got me. So I decided I had to go and get some, I think they're rookie cards at least. So I just got a couple of slabs.
Yeah.
Of
I know exactly. Yeah.
Just 8s. There's nothing too special about them, but I was just like 92 Skybox and Upper Deck. I think they're quite cool. And the neat thing about this one is it's actually got Charlotte Hornets as the team that they're playing, and so I think that's quite neat. That, I thought it would be quite a unique collection. Buying cards where Hornets are the opponent, like your favorite team is the opponent. I was like, that could actually be quite a funny little thing. To do.
That's fun. The Shaq rookie card that I like the most, that I wish they would make more of. It's an Upper Deck one as well. Was the one where he's standing underneath the basket, and then it shows him mid jump, and then it shows him dunking in it. It's all in one shot. So you've got 3 different photos overlaid one over the other. I love that card. Yes. It's one of my absolute favorite cards of all time. That one, I think it's great. That's probably my favorite Shaq card. And I think for Tim Duncan, my favorite one is his rookie card from the medal set. That, you know how you get the PMG Jordan and Kobe card. There's Tim Duncan's rookie card in that set too. That's my favorite Duncan card. I don't have that card, but I think that's the one that I probably want to get. It's expensive though.
Yeah, I think it is.
Oh yeah. Now that they were real easy to get at the time. But finding them now, it's rare as hen's teeth. So.
And then just my last card is a modern card, and I've got a couple card stands on my desk, and I cycle my sort of cards that I want to look at, so they're not just buried in a drawer all the time. And it's not that it's super valuable, but it's part of the Court Kings set that, and I won this in a break, and I was just absolutely super stoked about it. I just think it's just a really pretty card.
Yeah, that is really nice.
It just looks like art, artistry in motion. LaMelo. I just think it's just a really nice, pretty looking card, which I'm quite a big fan of. And the other one as well, actually, just while it's in front of me, is Jordan Addison. I won this in a break as well. Patch auto is a rookie card. It was a 1-in-1, so there's only one card available in the box. So talking to you earlier about how you've got to weigh up whether or not you're willing to, part way with money and walk away with nothing. I had $10 credit on my account because you earn rewards points through MJ Trading, and then the spot cost $22, so I spent $12, and I'm like, if I don't get anything, I've spent $12, but I've got the chance to get this, and I was the one that got the card, so I was like, wow, that is awesome.
Yeah, wow, that's cool.
Yeah.
Hey, boys, thank you so much for coming along and for taking the time. It's been fun chatting cards with you guys and just kind of changing my perspective a little bit on Modern. And probably if I want to stick with Modern, then I've got to approach it in a different way. And I think Jimmy's route is the way that I'm going to go. If I'm prospecting on a player, then maybe that's the way that I go into it rather than just try and buy bulk in it. It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and I go all in as well. So I'll get the singlet. I'll get the I'll try and find a good hat. But I haven't found one I like yet of Portland. But that's the sort of thing I like doing as well. And then you remember, and you can put it with the cards once that player becomes more valuable. You know?
Awesome.
Go, I knew.
It's worth it just for that. I knew, and if it doesn't work out, it was worth a go. Oh, why not?
No, you just don't tell people about it after that. You just go, "What's Scoot Henderson collection?"
200. How many? No, not 200 cards. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah. So
how many Scoot cards do you have? Do you have over 200 Scoot cards now?
So what I'm trying to do is, those old collector's albums, the ones there, and they've only got 90 in them. So I've now been going through and putting in as all the base cards, and I've got about 160 of the base, but I've got too many good ones that I don't want to just put in by itself. So I've put them in the one touches and the sleeves instead of putting them into the container. So I do have I've got about 187 last count. So I'm getting close to 200. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
How about you, Phil, with LaMelo or Brandon Miller? Do you have a count on those guys?
Nothing like Jimmy. It's another part of sort of a more recent strategy I've developed, especially with buying singles, and in line with that whole sort of the re-emergence of that whole junk wax era, the overprinting of cards that seems to be happening, is I have sort of like either a short print, super short print, or numbered card strategy. Mm-hmm. So unless it falls into those categories. So yeah, my collection probably of those guys are, they're probably 15 or so each, not huge amounts, but they all sort of mean probably a little bit more, I suppose, especially but like the Artistry of Motion one, pulling that in the break, that was quite special. Especially when it's you don't know what you're going to get, and then all of a sudden this comes out, and I'm like, that's exactly what I wanted, and I got it. So
yeah, cool.
Nothing like Jimmy.
Yeah. That's what got me started into Scoot, as I got a presentations in a hoops drawer, one per box of these sort of cards, and then all of a sudden I got a second one.
Oh wow!
So I've now got two, and I've got two Damian Lillards as well. So of those presentations, so that's what got me really hooked into it, and I thought that's a cool card because I really like them, the presentations. So yeah.
Very good, lads. Well, again, appreciate you guys coming along, and if listeners want to check out your show, they can go onto YouTube, and is it WMSA podcast or just WMSA?
No, it's under Basketball Edition for this, so we've just got a separate YouTube channel because we're trying to create channels. Yeah. So
okay.
So just search Basketball Edition, and look up Basketball Edition Card Chat, and we're there. Yeah.
Perfect.
You can see all our. We're just recording episode 50 of Basketball Edition, and we've now done. How many card chats have we done? For about 18. 18
approximately, but YouTube exclusive. We're up to 4. Great. 4's coming out soon.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah.
All right, lads.
Awesome. Thanks for having us, mate.
Yeah, no problem. That was a lot of fun.
Thanks. Well, it was cool, mate.
Yeah, cool. See ya.
Yeah, mate.